It's 1 p.m. East African time. Thank you so much for making time for KBC Lunchtime News. My name is Njue. This is what my colleagues and I have been lining up for you since morning. We have a bias in terms of how the CSs have handed over their offices from the outgoing to the incoming, and also we were keeping a keen eye on the Taxpayers' Day, and that's where we begin, where the head of state has promised to do a lot, including leading from the top when it comes to matters taxes. Let's first of all hear what the head of state had to say.
The state of our public finances is unsatisfactory. Given this, how we proceed will determine whether we are facing a threat or an opportunity. Difficult decisions must be made to put matters in good shape. The false comfort of a financial bandage must come to an end, because we are risking short-term comfort in place of sustainability in the long term. We have already taken the direction of retiring expensive, unsustainable consumption subsidies in favor of investing in production, while cutting off the fat in the national budget to eliminate wasteful and irrational expenditure to produce savings which will finance urgent critical interventions. We continue to live way beyond our means, with an unsustainable proportion of our revenues going to servicing debt. Under these circumstances, critical government services cannot be provided adequately or at all, owing to budgetary constraints. Similarly, essential projects cannot be undertaken for the same reason of unavailability of adequate resources. The implementation
That's just an extract of what the head of state, President William Ruto, had to say during the Taxpayers' Day that has just been concluded. For more news on that report, we will be coming with a more comprehensive report in our subsequent bulletin. But for now, let's focus on other news. Let's look at the drought situation in the country, where Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. has warned officials in Makueni County against selling relief food meant to cushion the vulnerable against the effects of the biting drought. The County Commissioner Beverly Opwara says those caught will be arrested and prosecuted. The two spoke at Kadhonzweni while flagging off emergency relief food to the county that is also hard hit by the ongoing drought that has so far affected about 4 million people in the country.
Governor Mutula put rogue officers looking to benefit from the sale of relief food meant for starving families on notice. The governor further noted that his administration will also distribute 300 million worth of certified planting seed to farmers ahead of the oncoming short rains.
Chakula ifikie wale watu ambao wanaathirika.
Na yule atapatikana amepindua chakula iende mahali pengine, atachukuliwa hatua kisheria.
Elsewhere, Yatta Member of Parliament Robert Pasel is calling on the government to construct the Yatta Dam so as to cushion his constituents against drought that is wreaking havoc. The Member of Parliament received relief food donations from the government, but called on well-wishers to donate more food to assist many others who are affected by drought.
People are really struggling. Most of the rivers have dried up. We saw Yatta Canal is completely dry. People are not able to grow crops. Most of the crops that were in the farm have actually wilted, and it is a very critical time when now we need to come together.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has donated a consignment of basic drugs and medical equipment to Kajiado County government, meant to ensure the drought-hit residents have access to basic health care. Kajiado CEC for Health Alex Kilowo said the donation is a major boost to the community, especially in the wake of this drought menace.
And we want to plead from, or rather for other partners to do like what health organization is doing, so that we can actually save situations and lives from this county.
Tumetafuta kwa minajili ya kusaidia janga hii la kiangazi, na tunatarajia kwamba Kajiado, kwa uongozi wa Kajiado utaweza kushughulikia jamii kule katika vijiji vyao.
The 5 million shilling worth of donation will be distributed to level 3 health centers and village level clinics to cater for the drought vulnerable families, especially in rural areas. Yusufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
Still on matters touching on the drought, religious leaders together with climate proponents from Green Faith are calling on the government to intervene on East Africa crude oil pipeline project that is being constructed in 2 East African countries. The organization says that the construction of the pipeline could undermine the survival of aquatic life in Lake Victoria, which is the second largest freshwater lake in the world.
Religious leaders drawn from several denominations and the climate proponents are condemning the East Africa crude oil pipeline project that seeks to construct an oil pipeline from Tanzania to Uganda, with part of it passing under Lake Victoria. They are faulting the lack of public participation before the commencement of the project, as well as lack of openness of the agreement signed between the governments and the private sector, and the social impact arising from the construction that will see several families displaced.
Most of the complaints that are coming from the communities who are displaced in Uganda and Tanzania is that there's no transparency in terms of compensation. As if that is not enough, they were not consulted whether they wanted to move away from their lands or not. So due process and public participation was not taken into consideration.
The developing countries are suffering from what is being imposed on them by the developed countries, and we appeal to the developed countries not to force new fossil fuel projects into our countries.
Are options that can be explored so that people are not unnecessarily displaced and people are not unnecessarily harmed.
The global director of Green Faith, Marine Wara, warned that the investment in the pipeline could exacerbate the effects of climate change, undermining the livelihoods of communities in the East Africa region.
We cannot do that when we have such projects coming into Africa, because it's going to triple, the greenhouse gas emissions. And so this makes the project, an environmental bomb.
We support development, we are not against development, but at what expense? Is it development at the expense of the environment? Development at the expense of people being displaced? We say no.
And we have to speak against any person who does anything that degrades the environment.
They condemned the harassment of students in Uganda who had protested the construction of the pipeline.
While what we've been seeing up to date is intimidation of people who are asking questions, arrests of students who are protesting against the project.
Anything that comes to destroy humanity, we as religious leaders, we stand against it.
We feel we have a duty, a God-sent duty, to talk against anything that is going to affect the climate negatively.
It is estimated that once complete, the pipeline will cover a distance of 1,445 kilometers, cruising across East Africa.
Africa climate proponents have laid demands ahead of COP27, and some of these demands include climate financing, adaptation and mitigation, loss and damage compensation, and most importantly, they are demanding that Africa to be recognized as one of the vulnerable continents that has been worst hit by climate change. Yet they only contribute 0.4% of carbon and greenhouse emission.
Opicho Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
In other news, a 47-year-old mother of 8 spent last night in the cold after auctioneers demolished the house she has lived in for decades in Malindi and made away with goods of unknown value. The demolition and confiscation of property belonging to Mariam Hassan Abdallah and her tenants was supervised by police officers from the Malindi police station who claimed they were enforcing a court order.
Sasa hiyo wakatuletea barua auction juzi mwezi mbili mapita kwamba sisi tunadaiwa kodi ya nyumba. Mimi nadaiwa kodi ya nyumba miaka 6 toka 2016 na marehemu amekufa 17. Uwe marehemu mamangu alikufa 17. Sasa wakasema sisi tutawadai na utalipa hii pesa, ama mtatujua sisi nani. Tukaenda kwa lawyer, sasa kwenda kwa lawyer kuangalia ile kesi, kupekua hiyo kesi, kuanzisha kesi mpya. Kwenda kuanzisha kesi mpya, kakutwa ile kesi imeongelewa, hata kesi imefungwa kwa kadhi, imefungwa, hakuna lolote. Sasa tumeanza kuapply tena upya kesi bila kuletwa barua sisi, bila kuletwa lolote kwamba ulikuwa wao na kesi. Hivyo ndio mpaka saa hii, ndio vile nilivyokwenda, ndio mpaka saa hii ndio nyumba imekuja kubomolewa, vitu vyangu vyote vimeenda. Na mimi naomba usaidizi kwa serikali, wakubwa wote, kina Mwaro, kina Mnamianzi, kina Shajumwa, wote naomba msaada kutoka kwao.
Kushangaza, huyo alionunua hii nyumba tangu mwaka wa 2020 mpaka leo sijamuona. Kila nikiuliza yuko wapi siambiwi. Huyo ambaye anasema alikuwa ni muuzie ndio yuko mbele kufuatilizia haya maneno. Wakanichukua wakanipeleka DCI kwa mawasaidizi, nikahojiwa, lakini DCI wakaona hii kesi enda mzege wakaambia waliachiana nayo. Sasa cha kushangaza ni kuwa leo asubuhi hatujaletewa hata court order ya kuwa sisi tuondoke, tutavunjiwa nyumba. Wao wamekuja na kama hivyo mnavyoona tunavunjiwa. Twajua mwenye pesa si mwenzako. Manake wanatumia pesa zao lakini kwa kufoji karatasi. Tuko na karatasi zetu za nyumba hapa, tunacholilia ni haki. Nikisema serikali sitokuwa nazungumzana naye, lakini nasema na president wetu wa Kenya ambaye ni William Ruto, wewe unalilia na mahasila, na sisi ni mahasila, twadhulumiwa na baadhi ya watu hapa Malindi wenye pesa zao. Kwa hivyo twakuomba wewe na gavana wetu Mngaro hapa na Amina Mnyaze mbunge wetu tulokuchagua, ingilieni kati hii kitu.
From Malindi to Bomet, where pupils of Nderiat Primary School in Bomet East Sub-County have benefited from the construction of 8 new classrooms and 9 washrooms, courtesy of WE organization. The classrooms will go a long way in addressing the infrastructure gap in the school that has often affected learning outcomes of the pupils of Nderiat Primary.
Speaking during the handing over function of the classrooms held at Nderiat Primary School in Bomet East Sub-County, the county governor, Dr. Hilary Barchok, lauded the WE organization for their contribution in education in the county, noting the initiative will make learning comfortable to the learners and ultimately improve their learning outcomes. Bomet County has suffered poor education infrastructure for a long time, but change is now evident. He further requested them to implement more projects that will be of benefit to the locals.
Shule haikufaidika peke yake. Our local community pia imeweza kupata msaada. You have been able to train 7 community-based organizations or groups kwa mambo ya kusimamia pesa, kutumia pesa, kufanya biashara, na wamehitimu, wamepata certificates. Hiyo ni pongezi kwenu, kwa sababu that is one area that we want to invest a lot of our resources to empower our people so that they can manage themselves, they can manage their resources.
According to the governor, about 8 groups of women have benefited from business trainings, promising free fruit seedlings that will boost the farmers' income.
In 3 years' time, mambo ikienda mzuri, we want to have a processing plant kule Kibredes ya kutengeneza cheese ya maembe, na hiyo itawezekana.
WE organization chairman Davis Cheres thanked the county government and the people for accepting to work with them, adding that they will continue partnering with them to boost the living standards of the people.
Kitu moja tu nilikuwa naomba governor ni taraja ya kuunganisha Kisaroni group of school na tuko na college hapa. Tuko na college mbili, clinical officers, tuko na nurses na secondary schools ya boys and girls. Hii watu ya charity organization wapate nafasi iwe isha kwao wakitaka kukuja kuona hii mashule, na ungesie wewe wengine wachenge.
Moving on, a section of legislators have pledged to enact a legislation or amend existing law on persons with disabilities to guarantee the rights and protection of people with disabilities in the country. KPP MP Wanjiko Mohia, her Westlands counterpart Tim Wanyonye, and nominated MP Bishop Jackson Kosgei said there is need to amend the current Persons with Disability Act to incorporate other unforeseen disabilities such as dyslexia, which may not be adequately addressed in the existing law.
Being able to read and write with ease is something majority of people simply take for granted. But imagine what it will be like to look at a page of text and see distorted letters swirling before your eyes, or not seeing the difference between the letters B and D. This is a challenge faced by those with dyslexia every time they read, with statistics showing 1 in every 5 people suffer from this particular learning disability in Kenya. Kenyans joined the rest of the world in marking the Global Dyslexia Awareness Month of October in calling for increased awareness of dyslexia.
Most of them are wasting in our schools because teachers are not trained on how to identify them. They are not trained on how to support them. So most of these children are very frustrated in school because this is a hidden disability. So they look like regular children, yet they have a hidden disability that teachers are not able to identify. So most of the school dropout rates are as a result of this condition. So we are calling out for better awareness, better support.
They identify things differently. And some of the people who have got this form of disability have excelled in life and have risen to become senior professionals in a very complicated actually profession like engineering and all that. And so what we notice is that they have got a very special talent that can be carefully nurtured.
Under the theme Going Red for Dyslexia, the awareness campaign held at Nairobi was nothing short of amazing. With incredible performances from students with dyslexia, which was proof that indeed disability is not inability.
Really brought this young boy a lot of things to do. I can now play the guitar, I can sing, I can play sports. I got the energy to do sports again because at the time I was fat, I gained some weight. So.
It's because of dyslexia that I am who I am. It's my identity, and I'm different, but that's not a bad thing. I think in 3D, I think pictographically. I have a problem with time management, but because of that, I pre-plan everything on my calendar.
Legislators who graced the occasion, led by Kipipiri Member of Parliament Njue, said they will champion to enact legislation or amend existing law on persons living with disability to guarantee the rights and protection of persons with disabilities in the country.
As much as we have the Person Living with Disability Act, which is too loaded, maybe we can come with the dyslexia bill in particular. It's my thinking. Why? Dyslexia and many other unforeseen disabilities sometimes get lost in the persons living with disability avenue.
We'll bring amendments to include things that are not captured in the legislation. But legislation is already there. It has already gone through the first reading in the last parliament, but we want to bring it back so that we enrich it and make sure that it captures some of these caps that are not captured in the legislation.
I wish to inform you that we are considering that as we bring it back, a conversation around the act that is taking care of persons with disability in this country, we will invite you to make contribution.
Despite the government's efforts in establishing specific social protection, economic empowerment and education programs that directly supports persons with disabilities, the lawmakers called for more funding to directly benefit persons with disabilities.
The groups that support this kind of people get support from the exchequer, because most of the time we leave this burden to parents and the well-wishers. So we just don't want to live on charity. We want to live on assured support from the government.
Such a school which is amazing, with the talents that we have seen displayed here, should not just be left to close for lack of money, finance and all that. These children belong to this country. It is the government's responsibility.
Ben Chumba, Lunchtime News.
Let's now take a look at other stories regarding peace, where Interfaith Council in Garissa have called for a meeting between religious leaders, peace elders and government officials from Kitui and Garissa counties aimed at de-escalating the conflicts between herders and farmers in Muta location, Kitui South constituency. The leaders say that severe drought as a result of depressed rain in the last 4 years has severely affected their livestock in arid and semi-arid areas, forcing herders to cross border in search of pasture.
Speaking during the meeting in Garissa after holding a post-election review workshop, the religious leaders called on the government to act decisively to avert any cases that would cause conflict or incitement and ensure that the communities live together harmoniously.
Walipeleka gamia zao sehemu ya Kitui na kupitia hiyo kukawa na maafa ya watu wawili. Tunatoa pole zetu kwa jamii iliyofiwa na pia kwa wale ambao mifugo yao iliumizwa. Tunasema pole zetu kama sisi watu wa dini hapa Garissa, na sisi ni kitu kimoja. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali kama vile imetoa amri ya kwamba kuwe na amani. Na ili hawa wafugaji hata wanapoenda kule kwa masamba upande ya Kitui kuwe na mipangilio na mikakati mizuri, kwa sababu hawa wanyama lazima wasomali na mifugo yao, na pia lazima kule Ukambani pia nao walime ile mashamba yao. Kuwe na mwelekeo, hata watu wakija wasikuje tu kuvamia mashamba, wakuje walishe mahali kuna misitu na mahali ambapo hakuna mashamba ya watu.
One of the council members condemned the killing of innocent civilians and livestock caused by the conflicts and also called upon NCIC to monitor and deal with cases of tribal incitement on social media. Sheikh Hassan Abdi, representing SUPKEM, urged the Somali communities looking after the livestock in Kitui to work out a plan with the owners of the lands to be allowed to graze in the farms.
Wenzetu wa Somali, tafadhalini muheshimu hawa watu na muombe hiyo nyasi. Wenzetu wa Kamba ambao wanaishi huko, tafadhalini mupokee wale ambao wamefika kwenu kwa hali ya kiangazi. Wakati huu wako na shida. Eri hii hakuna nyasi, hakuna mvua ambayo imenyesha zaidi miaka 4. Wamekuja kwenu, tafadhalini mupokee, hata kama wamekosea yeye, tafadhali muelimishe.
At about 24 minutes past the hour, we are taking our first break, but we still have more news. But allow me to appreciate some of the people who are watching us online. Cora Maxi, you say keep up the good work. Thank you. Junior Mrege, you say you are tuned in. Katis Otieno Ojonyo, you say tuned from Bondo. You say you love KBC. Count me in from Solio, Laikipia County. That's Geoffrey Mwangi. Dr. Skesho also has sent his comments saying he's watching. Mika Enzio Kemba, Sagalo Institute, Bungoma, tuned in. Thank you so much for watching. Let's have that break. I'll be back with more news.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial star 811 star 815 hash.
Mambo mema huwaendea watu wanaosubiri, ila mambo mema zaidi huwaendea watu wanaoyatafuta. Kupata mambo mema ni kufanikiwa, na kufanikiwa ni kutabasamu, kutafakari na kuhesabu mema na baraka ulizozichukulia hatua, ukazitafuta na kuzipata. Amka, tafuta ufanisi wako.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial star 811 star 815 hash. Star 811 star 815 hash.
The legends and familiar charms will grace KBC once again.
Kakamega mpo! Stesheni uipendayo Ingo FM inakuletea road show ya mwaka katika kaunti ya Kakamega. Ijumaa tarehe 4 na Jumamosi tarehe 5 Novemba. Tarehe 4 Ijumaa tunazuru Mumias, Matungu, Shianda, Navaholo, Malava, kambi ya Mwanza, Lurambi. Na tarehe 5 Jumamosi tukutane pale Kakamega, Hayega, Malinya, Bukura, Huisero, Mulwanda, Sabatia, Ekero na Mumias Town. Kutakuwa na vichekesho na burdan tosha. Pia utakutana na kikosi kizima cha watangazaji na waenzi wa Ingo FM. Usikose.
Radio Ingo, ingini ye mwitala. Kakamega na yefu bwana.
And thanks for keeping it KBC Lunchtime News. Now, one thing is that today is quite a busy day as outgoing CSs hand over to incoming CSs. Some of them did that yesterday, but for outgoing Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, Professor Margaret Kobia has officially handed over the ministry to the new Cabinet Secretary, Aisha Jumwa Katana. Welcoming the new Cabinet Secretary to the docket on Friday at Harambee House, Professor Kobia urged her to make sound policies, coordinate implementation of projects, and be guided by the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Accepting her new roles, a delighted Jumwa said she will prioritize women economic empowerment, ending of gender-based violence and Biashara Fund to ensure women from all walks of life are uplifted. Well, they are a total of 24. That encompasses the 22 CSs. And also we have 22 CSs, and also we have an Attorney General, and also we also have the cabinet to the Secretary to the Cabinet. But first, let's see how things panned out at Harambee House.
There are 50 million Kenyans, but me and you and other senior civil servants have had an opportunity to give service to Kenya for the purpose of getting a better quality of life for all Kenyans, as indicated in Vision 2030. Therefore, we will support you when you need us, and I can assure you the team that I'm leaving behind is a very strong team that should give you comfort, so that you don't have sleepless nights. Because if you have sleepless nights, I am very concerned and interested in success of CS Aisha Jumwa, so that it is part of my success, because I've given her the baton. So as she moves on, she'll be building on that block, and whoever else she'll give, this country will be a better country.
I joined this ministry full aware of the enormity and importance of the assignment before me and the team I will be working with, as well as the high expectations of Kenya regarding the performance of this ministry. It is therefore important to note that we have no choice but to hit the ground running. I am encouraged to know that I will benefit from the work my predecessor, Professor Kobia, who has ably steered the ministry and delivered transformative programs to women. On the public service, I will work to ensure that we have an efficient and effective public service through, one, having the right people with the right skills in the right jobs. Allow me to appreciate the outgoing Cabinet Secretary for her strong leadership and hard working during her tenure in this ministry. I look forward to continue her legacy and draw upon her wisdom.
Quite lovely. That was happening at Harambee House, where outgoing Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action was handing over to the incoming one. Indeed. Also in the Water Ministry in Upper Hill, she took over the reins of power and will be the Minister Alice Wahome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There's a lot of reflection, which I'm sure the President did, in terms of determining that it is Mheshimiwa Wahome who will take up this position. Because even during the vetting, I can tell you we followed the vetting. I did myself personally. And it's like you've been here for 2 years. You actually covered all that had to be covered. And so, hongera sana.
But from the onset, the drought situation will call upon efforts from my ministry, from Kenyans, but I think interventions that are already in place, if they are accelerated, like coming up with boreholes where necessary, taking water through bozas is happening as we speak. The rains are coming. We shall see how we can store some of that water. For one or two small issues or technical reasons, the technical staff will help me to, resolve. Some of them is because of land cases, the question of our tenure, land tenure, acquisition processes can be facilitated and maybe accelerated.
That was happening at the Water Ministry, where Alice Wahome has taken over as a CS for water. Now, President William Ruto has vested his trust on 24 men and women, some seasoned politicians and also technocrats, to actualize his Kenya Kwanza agenda. Well, talking of seasoned politicians, we have the cabinet secretaries, and for now let's take a look at some of the cabinet secretaries who will be working hand in hand to actualize the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. We have going to be having an issue there, but of course, when we come back, we will be having a look. Technology has decided let's not have that. But anyway, let's have a look at how things were in business. Apologies for that technical hitch, but let's have a look at what's making headlines in the business world. The government plans to increase land under irrigation, deploy smart agricultural practices, and enhance value addition for agricultural produce to deal with the current food crisis. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says this will be achieved through public partnerships to reduce dependency on costly food importation. That story will be coming to you a little bit later, but in other news, Kenya needs to accelerate reforms in the energy sector to achieve 100% transition to renewable energy. The Electricity Sector Association of Kenya says the government should overhaul the energy infrastructure to make it compatible with renewable energy resources. Kenya plans to switch to renewable energy by the year 2030, with about 75% of the country's energy being generated from renewable resources.
In the last 10 years, Kenya has invested more than 1 trillion shillings to expand and revamp its energy infrastructure. The country has further increased energy generation from 1,600 to the current 2,600 megawatts. The country has developed the energy sector transformation strategy in a bid to revamp and renew energy infrastructure. These have seen the government increase access to clean, reliable and affordable electricity from below 30% in 2013 to over 75% in 2022. However, the Electricity Sector Association of Kenya is calling on the government to edit and overhaul the entire grid infrastructure.
Going forward as the electricity sector is that both public sector and private sector work together in order to maintain the investments that are in the country and to attract a lot more. So the financing mechanisms that would work in this market is enhancing already what has been done over the last 15 years. Private investment has been used to increase generation capacity. And as we try to get to 100% renewable, we'll be speaking about transmission and distribution and enhancing that side of the infrastructure. Historically, that part has been done through public sector financing.
ISAC says electricity consumption in buildings and the construction sector is set to increase, and electricity supply for all buildings will exert more pressure on the existing infrastructure. ISAC chairperson George Aluru has said investing more in new technology will make Kenya a leader in the green industrial revolution through the sustainable development of the electricity sector, advocacy and data-driven solutions.
As a country, and especially in the energy sector, we are hoping to have some kind of investments dedicated to actually enabling us to have more renewable energy on the grid. So we are hoping that in this COP, the parties, the discussion in Egypt will make commitments and actually put some money into things like strengthening the grid and interconnections and making our grids more able to take in more renewable energy.
According to the African Development Bank, Africa's energy financing gap as of May 2022 is 2.96 trillion shillings annually. Frederick Moki for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, public and private sector players have been urged to improve on cybersecurity within the digital information systems in a bid to build digital trust by citizens and clients. ICT stakeholders say with the digital migration the world has taken and businesses delivering services online, there is need to protect customers from cybercrime.
The highest internet penetration in Africa, with over 31 million people having access to the internet. The acceleration of digitization comes with insecure consumer habits. This, coupled with a lack of coherent legislation and regulatory frameworks, as well as inadequate cybersecurity measures in key sectors, is turning Kenya into a lucrative target for cyber criminals. The country has been targeted by hackers in several major attacks over the past couple of years. In 2017, Kenya lost approximately 21.2 billion shillings to cybercrime. ICT professionals have urged private sector and governments to carry out more sensitization to the public to ensure they are well informed on opportunities and services that are available online.
Last year, Kenya received $3.7 billion from our diaspora. That's a very important thing for Kenya's currency. It was transferred through the digital system. So all of these systems are in fact now going to contribute to an enormous growth in Kenya.
Nchi yetu ichukue mambo hii na ijaribu kufunza, kuwaeleza ndio waelewe kwa nini kuna umuhimu wa kutumia teknolojia.
They were speaking during the ISACA annual conference, focusing on governance, risk and compliance to leverage on sustainable digital trust during the digital era. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.
Stakeholders in the education sector have called for resolute action towards supporting and protecting innovative ideas of the youth with patenting. The initiative will see the innovators maximize on their ideas while turning them into productive businesses through a series of training and mentorship.
Statistics indicate that Kenya's youth could be losing out on having their innovations patented due to failure to understand laws that grants them exclusive use and commercial benefits of their inventions. This has prompted action from stakeholders in various sectors to ensure that innovative students are sensitized on protection of their creative work. Furthermore, they noted that the youth will reap maximum dividends from their intellectual investments and will be even more motivated to reinvest in their minds.
Main thing is to encourage our students to become innovative, to become entrepreneurial, and that's why in Zetech University it's mandatory for every student to do entrepreneurship as a course.
The Commission for University Education will be supporting the students by funding their projects to completion. This is set to benefit the young innovators keen on innovations in order to safeguard them against violation.
The issue is we have a weak system of supporting our own innovators in terms of IP, that is intellectual property protection. So the KIPI needs to up its game in ensuring that any innovation that is done by our people are registered with the WIPO, which is the World International Intellectual Property Rights Organization.
Additionally, they rallied for more efforts from relevant government bodies, including enforcement agencies and institutions of higher learning, to offer more effective tools for knowledge sharing and transfer of technology. Ndosa Mokami for Lunchtime News.
And still on tech, cybersecurity remains a major threat to Kenya's digitization agenda. The country is losing billions of shillings to cyber criminals through various illegal technology. IT experts in Mombasa have urged the government to increase investments in deterrence measures to make the country a preferred investment destination in the region.
The COVID-19 pandemic has pushed digitalization, with cybercriminals turning to technology to rob Kenyans. Cybercrime has been aided by a lack of digital capabilities that continue to lag behind the rest of the world, resulting in costly losses. The government has identified cybersecurity as a top priority to help the country to adapt to the emerging technologies that are used for the benefit of the nation and guaranteed data protection and safety online. According to the IT professionals who met in Mombasa, creating awareness of cybercrime will go a long way in protecting one's data from cybercrime.
So cyber awareness is something that has come out as something that is key for us as people in the ICT sector to really reach out and tell people the importance of being cyber aware at all times.
Speaking during the Computer Society of Kenya 13th Annual Management and Leadership Conference, ICT experts have urged the government to strengthen data protection and invest in more crime-busting technologies to deter cybercrime.
Emerging from the conference, what we hope is that the deliberations will be looked into and that some of them that are touching policy can be addressed.
So we urge state agencies, managers, and all the guys who are in the ICT industry to come together to support such forums, either through CSK or through the ministry, so that we can all be participating in such.
The IT managers attending the meeting have reiterated their commitment to helping make Kenya a digitally driven economy as envisaged in the Digital Economy Strategy, which was launched 2 years ago. For Lunchtime News from Mombasa County, I am Ann Mburu.
Let's now focus on continental news, where students in South Africa have built a train powered by solar energy, which is intended to ease troubles of commuters plagued by unreliable electricity supply. The locomotive can travel 60 kilometers per hour and has 4 solar panels attached at its roof. Here are the details of this and other stories making headline from across the continent.
Train is the cheapest means of transportation in South Africa, making it the option for the poor and working class. However, a combination of cable thefts and power cuts have left many commuters stranded in the last couple of years. To solve this problem, a group of 20 South African teenagers have developed a solar-powered train in anticipation of ensuring efficient rail transport in the country. The prototype train has a roof covered with photovoltaic panels, which makes the innovation practical and feasible in the sunny area. For now, the prototype can support 10 return trips on the track installed on the grounds of the school. The prototype will later be presented to the government. If approved for large-scale application, the invention could revolutionize railway travel in South Africa. Meanwhile, businesses in Uganda have incurred huge losses as a result of the lockdown as one of the measures to control the spread of the Ebola virus. Traders in Kampala are appealing to the Ugandan government to lift the lockdown, as most of them have loans to clear, rent challenges, and are still recuperating from the losses of the COVID-19 lockdown. The business community has pledged to cooperate with the government to prevent the spread of the disease, pleading with it to ease the restrictions. Finally, the Central Bank of Nigeria has urged financial managers to work towards building a more resilient economy that will contain external shocks whilst supporting growth in key sectors of the economy. Central Bank of Nigeria pointed out that countries with open financial systems grow faster in the long run, even as the opening up of the nation's financial systems and managing it well will bring new opportunities that will lead to economic growth.
The failed Tesla founder and CEO Elon Musk has completed his $44 billion takeover of Twitter and immediately fired top executives, including the CEO and the chief finance officer. Musk said he will defeat spam bots and fake accounts on Twitter and prevent the platform from becoming an echo chamber for hate and division, even as he limits censorship. Here are the details of this and other stories making headline from across the world.
Elon Musk has taken control of Twitter, firing top executives and providing little clarity over how he will achieve the lofty ambitions he outlined for the influential social media platform. Musk fired Twitter chief executive Parag Agrawal, chief financial officer Ned Segal, and legal affairs and policy chief Vijaya Gade. The departures came just hours before a deadline set by the Delaware judge to finalize the deal. The judge has threatened to schedule a trial if no agreement was reached. Musk said he bought the social media platform to help humanity and he wanted civilization to have a common digital town square. Elsewhere, Japanese yen has been sliding, driven by the difference between interest rates in Japan and the US. The yen has long been seen as a safe haven, which investors traditionally bought at times of crisis. This year alone, it has lost more than a fifth of its value against the US dollar to hit the lowest level since 1990. Since March, the US Federal Reserve has aggressively raised its main interest rate from 0.25% to 3.25% as it tries to tackle the rising cost of living. During the COVID pandemic, many other nations adopted the tactic to support their economies. Those countries are now raising interest rates, but the Bank of Japan on Friday yet again kept its main rate below zero. Finally, Shell has reported its second highest quarterly profit on record, but it has not paid the UK's windfall tax on energy farms. The energy giant said global profits reached $9.5 billion between July and September, compared to $4.2 billion during the same period last year. Oil and gas prices began to rise after the end of COVID lockdowns, but have surged since February after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, resulting in bumper profits for energy companies.
And back home, delivering universal health care, UHC, and ensuring that Kenyans can access affordable health care is among top priorities for the new Cabinet Secretary for Health, Susan Wafula Nakumicha, who took oath of office at the ceremony presided over by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi. Our health reporter, Marie Yambo, caught up with her at the St. Veronica's Catholic Church, in Syokimau, at a Thanksgiving ceremony organized to celebrate her new appointment, and began by asking her how she felt about her new role. Take a look.
Susan Wafula Nakumicha, the new Cabinet Secretary for Health, is no stranger to matters leadership. A member of the Catholic Women Association at the St. Veronica's Catholic Church in Syokimau, Machakos County, serving people has always been her passion. In the 2022 general elections, Susan took a stab at politics and vied for women representative seat in Trans Nzoia County rather unsuccessfully. While her aim was to represent the women of Trans Nzoia County, her focus, she says, now shifts to serving all Kenyans in the all-important aspect of health.
So I'm going to be looking at the whole, set up the whole health of the family. And you know, family is the smallest unit of our community, so the families make the community, and eventually we have the whole nation, and that is what I'm going to look at. So I can't say that it was In matters leadership, maybe that was just focused on one, and now whatever the effort is going to be multiplied by 47.
She, however, acknowledges that women hold a special place in her heart, especially on matters gender-based violence and mental health.
For me, it's to focus on primary health care, integrate mental health care into it, and of course with a special attention to maternal health. You know, it's the women of this country who carry the burden in terms of maternal health. So as we focus on primary health care, we also focus on the women from the ground, from the grassroots.
Among the campaign promises of the Kenya Kwanza administration she's keen on delivering on is to ensure affordable healthcare by increasing the number of Kenyans registered under the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF.
My focus is to deliver the Kenya Kwanza plan on matters health, and which is to deliver universal healthcare to all Kenyans. So that is going to be my responsibility, to ensure that all Kenyans can access healthcare at affordable prices. If not, then at free of cost, because one of our plans as Kenya Kwanza is to make sure that everybody is registered on NHIF.
A staunch Catholic, C.S. Nakumecha acknowledges that her faith plays a pivotal role in her leadership and that integrity is key.
Even as we provide services, we must remember that God. And remember, matters of religion play a big role even in matters of integrity. You know, it's a whole, it changes somebody in the way they do everything else. That you're not just answering to humanity call, but you are working as though you work unto God.
Marie Ambo reporting for the Lunchtime News.
Let's now focus on sports. We begin with tennis, where Andy Murray's run at the 2022 Swiss Indoors game came to an end in the second round following a straight sets defeat to Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut. The former world number one lost 6-3, 6-2 to the Spaniard in the last 16. Bautista Agut fought back from an early service break to win the first set before claiming breaks in Murray's first and final service games of the second set. The 35-year-old Murray would have hoped to use the tournament in Basel to pick up some valuable ranking points in an attempt to break back into the top 32 and therefore be seeded for the Australian Open in January. Bautista Agut will now face Brandon Nakashima and Stan Wawrinka in the quarterfinals. Where Senegal hitman Sadio Mane believes Argentina are strong favorites to win the 2022 World Cup set to be held in Qatar. Mane says Argentina captain Lionel Messi and his compatriots have the capability and the capacity to lift this year's World Cup. Messi has been in a prolific form this season, registering 11 goals and 12 assists in 16 matches for Paris Saint-Germain in all competitions. The World Cup finals will be exclusively televised live on KBC Channel 1 and on all our radio stations beginning on the 20th of November through to 18th of December 2022. Remember, World Cup iko KBC.
Bayern Munich